Hello everyone! Today we will see how we can use the English attack to crush our opponents. This will work between any ELO from 600 to 2300 probably. You will see that it's a very simple setup to crush your opponents in many different openings like the Pirks or usually when they put a bishop in fianchetto. So it's a very good technique to attack the enemy fianchetto. For those of you who are new to the channel, I make funny chess content. You can subscribe if you want. I plan to make more content in the near future. And I'll also make more videos like this where I just go through some games and explain them for any ELO from like beginner to advanced chess player. So today we will start with this game that I played against 1850. And you see it was completely a one-sided game. I had like 92.5 accuracy. And pretty much from the start to the finish, I was always ahead of my opponent. And I used a very simple setup that I usually use more with white, but you're going to see that sometimes you can also use it with black. And this setup is very powerful against someone who goes for the fianchetto. So here, my opponent chose the double fianchetto opening. And basically, you're going to build against fianchetto, you're always going to build your center like this, d4 and e4 when you're white. Here it's e5 and d5 for black. And what you want to do is basically combine, the defense of your knight on one pawn and then use a bishop to defend the other pawn. Usually these type of players, they will try to put a lot of pressures on your central pawns using the knights and the bishop potentially. Sometimes they might actually fianchetto only one bishop and put pressure with the other one on your knight that is defending, things like this. So for all those setups, I really like one setup which is called the English attack, where you actually use the following setup. So you put your queen on e7, or it would be on d2 in the for white, and you basically align them against your fianchetto. So here I did it quite late in the game just because I wanted to wait for him to castle first. That's important because you want to actually use your setup to attack the enemy castle. And so basically, if you went for like let's say something like knight here, maybe I would have gone something like bishop here, castle, and something like that. For example, queen d7, and I have exactly the same setup against white. So of course here there's the e-pawn hanging, so probably wouldn't have made exactly these moves, but that's the idea. It's like you want to align your queen and your bishop against the enemy fianchetto. So here I waited to see where he was going to castle. When he played queen e2, that's a flexible move, indicating he can still castle both sides. After knight c3, it was pretty clear that he was going to castle on the queen side. I still made this reinforcing move. When you're white, it's f3. When you're black, it's c6. And you're going to see there's a lot of transposition from when playing black, from playing white. It doesn't really matter. What you want to do is support your center like this. Have a knight as well. This knight, you keep it on b8 or g1 for most of the game. And he's going to go actually to d7 here. Because you want to use that pawn to actually support the center, but most importantly to support the advancing pawn, because you're going to advance the h pawn and the g pawn, or a and b in this case, to actually attack white, right? So you want to keep flexibility for this knight, and you don't want to develop it to c6 here because that would block your pawn, and then you don't have this lever with b5. So you want to have this pawn here. And once he castled, that's why I went with queen e7. So computer would say it's an inaccuracy, you wanted to start with b5. Doesn't really matter. I'm going for my setup. And that's what's great about the English setup is you see I'm still already winning, or not winning, but like I'm better, clearly better with black, even with best play from white. In this case, it's not going to be always that you're better. Sometimes computer might say you're equal in these positions. But it doesn't really matter because the attack is very strong, and if the opponent doesn't know how to answer, they're going to be in trouble. And most of the time they won't know unless they're like 2200, 2300 when they know very well their openings. But up until like 2000, it has been a great weapon, and even after, it's a great setup just to play the game. And the idea is really that you're on the attacking side, and that's always easier to be on the attacking side. In most cases, in these setups, white doesn't necessarily here have their bishop in fianchetto, so they might actually have their bishop somewhere in the center, and then actually attack with things like g4, a4, etc., and try to find counterplay on your king as well. So then it's more of a race between you and your opponent. in this case, I was clearly better just because white has not even started their counterplay, and I'm already completely set up to look at the king. And so here, my opponent started the counterplay on the queen side with h4, but the problem is it's too slow. He took too much time to actually build his setup, and I'm already attacking. So here, bishop a3. Bishop a3, that's the whole idea of the English setup, to put your queen in battery with the bishop to actually exchange this very strong bishop. Most of the time, the king will be here on b1 in this case, but it doesn't really matter. The idea is that white never really wants to take, that just brings your queen into the attack. And so they're gonna let you take, and you're gonna take back, and then you're gonna push h4, h5, or here a5, a4, and actually attack the enemy king. And what's really interesting about this plan is that it's pretty hard to stop, because even if you sacrifice the pawn, you're gonna see that if white takes, you can still play b5. If white takes, doesn't really matter. You're here to open lines. Also, if the knight takes, then you kick it back with b5 here. And so then you've kind of opened basically the path to this square. You want to have your queen there supported by your rook on the a file. And exactly the same when you're playing this setup with white, except it would be the h file. So here, white continued to play slowly, and here I'm already completely crushing, and I start the attack with a5, a5, a4. That's really what we want to do here. So a5, a4, and white is like doing stuff here. I don't really understand what he's doing, honestly. It's not even the best way to attack what he did, but he's trying to start an attack on the king side, but it's already way too late. And here, I'm already completely winning. Here, I actually found the best move, and in order for you to find this, you might say, okay, I've put the bishop here, I want to trade it right away, and that's what I used to do in the past. The problem when you trade the bishop right away is that king will take, and then you kind of open the path for their rooks. So I've had games like this where I trade the bishop right away, then go a5, a4, or h4, h5, and I start attacking like this, but then the king actually moves here, puts a rook there to confront the file here, and then you're actually not able anymore to attack on the file because they will have control of it with their rooks. That's why I recently discovered that actually it's most of the time better to leave kind of this tension here, because if they take, well, they kind of give you tempo back, so that's always good. And also because you take back with the queen, they're not going to be able to use that square for their king, right? They're going to be stuck here. So they won't be able to bring the rooks in. So you kind of want to push this pawn, keep the bishop hanging for now, and basically then trade. And then when you have access here and then don't have time anymore to bring the rooks in, you start exchanging the pawns and exchanging the bishops. And here it's already mate in 3, so I already have kind of the answer on the screen. But if you want to pause and try to find why it's mate in 3, it's always a good exercise to see it. It's a very simple one. And here the best move is bishop takes b2, king takes b2, queen a3, check, and queen a1, checkmate. And that's basically it for the English attack. You have exactly the same ideas in many openings, like the Sicilian Dragon, in the Scotch game, in the Perks as well. Basically anything where you can face sometimes fianchetto, or even without the fianchetto, sometimes this setup is really strong, like in the Scotch game, for example. Alright, so that's it for this video today. Hope you enjoyed this little format on the English attack and how to crush your opponents against a fianchetto. This can be applied all the way to 2000, so feel free to use it in your own games, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.